Two animal rights activists in Canada have been found guilty for simply exposing peacefully what was happening inside the farm. Criminal animal cruelty. What I mean by that is that the condition of the animals inside was actually against the law. And what happened is the two that we're going to talk about and two others were actually taken to court based on what they've done. Now at the end, the only ones who were found guilty were Amy Serrano and Nick Schaefer.
Amy Serrano and Nick Schaefer appear unfazed just moments after learning their fate.
This is definitely a sacrifice that we are willing to make.
I'm not worried about sentencing or what's going to come of this. Like it's been said before, whatever happens to us pales in comparison to what happens to these animals every day.
The third defendant, Roy Sassano, found not guilty of his lone charge of mischief.
If you want to know more about the background of all of this, you can check my podcast episode that I recently launched with Amy, where we talk about all of this, including her personal life and activism. But what I really want to talk about today is actually the court case. My mind is blown that in this day and age, someone who goes into a farm peacefully to expose what's happening inside illegally is actually the one who is found guilty. And keep in mind that Amy and Nick were found guilty of things that are considered very serious in Canada, so they are considered felons, just because they exposed something that was against the law. What kind of message does this send to, first of all, animal farmers, second of all, to society in general? If people realize something bad is happening, something against the law is happening, and peacefully expose it, how are they the ones who are then found guilty? Now, this has been going on for a very long time, and I do want to share a few things that Nick Schaefer had shared on his Instagram, just to give you an idea of how ridiculous this court case was, and how they ended up being the ones who are going to pay for it. Pretrial, Ray Benendik, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, who is the farmer, is on the stand. He's getting grilled on the operation of his barn and why he was so concerned that he was being filmed. After about 4 or 5 times asking him why he was so concerned, since he just sat there in a stupid, angry silence, he finally burst out and said, "Well, what if they filmed me pissing in the barn?" To which everyone was in shock, obviously. Then Joe says, "Well, you're telling me you pissed in your barn?" "Well, yeah, it's a barn. Like, we are the stupid ones for asking. So you piss in the barn, where the animals are." "Well, yeah, why are we talking about pissing?" "Well, because you brought it up." I'd have to say this was probably one of my highlights of the entire trial this far. The steam coming from his head was almost visible. Now, this is just mind-blowing. Like, people, this farmer who is, first of all, abusing animals and, of course, exploiting animals. But when it comes to the law, he's literally abusing animals. There's actual footage of that. There's proof of that. Literally just admitted that he also just pisses in the farm. Now, I don't eat animal products for very obvious reasons, but what do non-vegans feel about this? Now, I want to talk about something else. This is just really disturbing. Honestly, it boils my blood that Amy and Nick are the ones who are going through this, and so much respect for them. They always put the animals first. Every single time someone asks about how they're feeling, they're talking about how much worse it is for the animals. But still, we should take into consideration their experiences as well.
The verdict's unfortunate, but I am grateful that a vast amount of people have got to see what happens inside farms like Excelsior.
We also hope that this case will help prompt much needed legal change to protect animals.
When Nick had done an Ask Me Anything on his Instagram, someone said, "Why doesn't the BC SPCA charge the hog farm with anything? It's so confusing to me." So the BC SPCA is the animal welfare organization who is supposed to hold accountable anyone who is abusing animals. So here's Nick's answer. The BC SPCA doesn't charge anyone with anything. They can only recommend charges. And this is what happened. Undercover footage was handed to the BC SPCA. They stated to the media that they could not recommend charges because there was nobody to verify the footage since it was taken anonymously undercover, for very obvious reasons. The person then came forward to verify the footage. However, after that happened, instead of recommending charges, they immediately turned that person over to the police. They then told the media that they can't recommend charges because the footage was taken illegally. So let me get this straight. Someone got undercover footage of what's happening inside, sent it to this organization who's supposed to hold accountable the farmers for what they're doing. And this organization said, "Oh, well, we kind of need to know who it is, otherwise we can't do it." And they were supposed to recommend what charges could be held against the farm. And instead they said, "Oh, we need to know who did this." And then that person was like, "Okay, I was the one who did it." And then they just turned him over to the police. this is like the biggest backstabbing to other animals, but also including the activists. Like the BC SPCA is, I mean, they're just a bunch of I wouldn't even know what to call them. They're not an animal welfare organization. They're a farmers welfare organization at best, if you want to be polite. But it's just mind blowing what they've done. So Nick says this poses two very important questions. If the BC SPCA knew that illegally obtained footage was inadmissible in court, why did they urge the person who took that footage come forward only to immediately turn them over to the police when they had no obligation to do so? They only have an obligation if there is a court order or if they have to testify on the stand in a cruelty case, neither of which happened. The second question is, if illegally obtained footage is admissible in court, why have they taken no action on this clearly documented criminal animal cruelty? I mean, it's just so frustrating. And keep in mind, so far we don't know what's going to happen with Amy and Nick. They're probably going to face jail time. And there's, like, it just gets me so angry to think that they would even have to worry about going to jail for exposing something illegal. I mean, what kind of sick world are we living in where literally anyone you ask on the street, are you against animal cruelty? Yeah, of course I am. I'm against animal abuse. I'm against animal cruelty. But then activists actually expose animal cruelty, and they're the ones who are going to go to jail. What they exposed is what 99% of society claims they're against. And some people actually mean it in their own twisted way, even though they still consume animal products. But it's just so mind-blowing that they're the ones who are going to pay for this. And the farmer, nothing. What kind of message does this send? So I'm not going to make this any longer. I just want to share this, share my support for anyone who's been affected by all of this, because they were not the only ones. There was also Roy Sassano, who thankfully is not facing anything, and a fourth activist that was out of the picture, thankfully again, from the beginning of the trials. But this is just so mind-blowing. In Canada, you know, that they're gonna possibly face jail time, and they're felons by law. They are criminals now for doing this. So just want to share this video with you all. I hope you can take some time to share some solidarity and support with Amy and Nick. I really hope that there's some kind of appeal and they can come out as innocent. But we'll see what happens. Check them out on Instagram and you can follow them and stay up to date with everything. Thank you for watching. Remember, if you want to listen to the podcast episode with Amy Serrano, my podcast can be found on almost all podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others. If you want to support my work and everything that I'm doing, please check out my website. I really appreciate your support as well, and I'll see you in the next video.